No, end of video. Okay, I'm kidding. Fine. So, I've made no secret of the fact that I really don't like this Harper Row character, because I might have mentioned it a time or two over the past 7 seasons. But, to be fair, she wasn't always as bad as I've perceived her. When she was first introduced, she seemed fairly innocuous enough, someone at the right place at the right time to help Batman out, and supplanting the rebellious type of sidekick that Batman had lost in the New 52, with the practical erasure of Stephanie Brown. And while she wasn't quite as ostracized from the Bat family as Steph was, she did get some pushback from Batman, and even a punch in the face while he was still mourning the loss of Damian. But hey, I don't think a sidekick needs to die in order to punch her in the face. That can be an everyday activity. No, what made this character go so downhill for me was her portrayal in the Eternal books. Not quite as much in Batman Eternal, though there were some conveniences given to the character, but most heavily in its sequel, Batman and Robin Eternal. Yes, I know, I've talked about this ad nauseum, so instead of entirely rehashing why I dislike her so much, let's ask the question, could she have been a better character? Any character can be better than what they are. The problem lies in the fact that they made her one of the abrasive types of characters that's so disagreeable and obstinate and stubborn, but there's one thing missing with Harper, the pushback. Yes, Batman knocked her through a wooden fence, but that hardly accounts for all the times she looked her nose down at other characters, boasted about her skills, got completely unwarranted compliments, while others, even if they were twisted versions of better characters, didn't seem to like her any less for that. Let's take another abrasive character, for example, Guy Gardner. He can have a foul mouth, a bad attitude, and yeah, they'll still work with him, but they don't kiss his butt over it. At least I hope not. Famously, Batman also punched Guy in the kisser, but he was unconscious for the rest of that story, as I recall. And while I haven't followed the character's history, I do know that other characters can be kinda short with him. They'll contradict him, they'll get in his face about things. That much I am aware of. So really what could have ingratiated Harper better is instead of just making her the best at everything at a given moment, or making her the centerpiece of this grand conspiracy against Batman about how important she is based on a grade school volcano, play up some actual faults for the character. Give her an arc to go through. Don't just have everyone say, wow, she's great, and then have her do amazing things with no resources. Don't have her boss around established characters. And no, she didn't have an arc in either of the Eternal stories. She ingratiates herself to the team, she's established as being just really great and everyone just has to acknowledge it. That's not an arc. And neither was finding out the retcon that Casino killed her mommy, because she doesn't actually go through any kind of change. She even specifies that killing for revenge isn't who her mom raised her to be. She didn't change, learn, or grow in any way. She never doubted herself, she never grew as a character, just grew an entourage of people willing to do whatever she says. There are no building of friendships between her and Casino, or spoiler alert, they just say, hey, we're friends, end of story. Most of the time that involves the characters just doing whatever Harper says. You know, like any solid friendship. So, much like that thought experiment I did a couple seasons back, let's consider this in a pre-Flashpoint context. What if Harper was around before the big dumb reboot no one asked for? How would these characters have reacted to her? So my idea for this would be that Harper, yes, has aptitude for electrical engineering. That's fine. But maybe don't go overboard with it like a bug-sized drone that can take out a 10-foot-tall mech, or some magical motion-detecting stand for her stun rifle. Don't make her an expert knife thrower just because the story demands it, and if you really want to make her a hacker, maybe give her some talents in that regard, but still have some place to learn. Maybe she gets overzealous in creating new devices and they tend up blowing up in her face. Literally. Don't make the only thing we're supposed to sympathize with her the fact that her mom is dead. And certainly don't make Cassandra the reason. Yes, that was still stupid, and yes, I'm trying not to rehash things, but it's just so stupid! Keep her in the poor side of town, but maybe curb back on how resourceful she is. Yeah, people can be wasteful, but I think being able to build advanced technology that's the envy of people with real resources like Tim Drake maybe is trying a bit too hard to tell the reader how awesome we're supposed to think she is. So how would I think that these characters, just before the reboot, would react to her? Nightwing would probably find her abrasive, maybe kind of getting on his last nerve at times, but not thinking she's necessarily a terrible person. I could see her annoying the heck out of Tim Drake. She doesn't want to listen to reason or experience. She doesn't shut up about how great she thinks she is at hacking or building things. But maybe once in a while, she impresses him with being able to put junk together and make something useful. Damien would probably regard her as street trash like he does practically everyone else, but with Ro, he feels it's a lot more valid. Alfred I could see being very sympathetic to her. If he knows she comes from a rough background, lives on the poor side of town, actually struggles to get by instead of hacking some of her problems away, I could see him understanding her attitude, but being so impressed with her, let's say I'm still lukewarm on that. Barbara could potentially see her as an impending cautionary tale, like what happened with Stephanie Brown dying at the hands of Black Mask, recognizing she might have some potential in being a hacker, but that she takes too many risks and she's far too reckless and overconfident. Stephanie would see this too, and maybe see a bit of herself in Harper, in that at one time, Stephanie was an overzealous, overconfident young heroine that didn't always do what she was told, and that can be kind of a double-edged sword for her. Sometimes Steph did what she thought was right, even if the odds were against her or she was told not to, but a lot of times doing that got her in over her head and nearly really did get her killed. I could see her trying to guide Harper with her experience, but at the same time Harper would probably ignore her, maybe even after a couple of times where she nearly gets severely hurt or killed. Perhaps not seeing value in Stephanie's advice, or anyone else's, until way after someone with more common sense would have. Cassandra, the good version, would pick up on a lot of this already just by watching Harper work. Now, just because I don't like Harper doesn't mean that I would make Cassandra dislike Harper, but I also wouldn't have them be insta-best friends, or Cass even really liking Harper that much at all. Like various others in the Bat family, she sees her potential, that she wants to do good. She'd also see how unrefined and untrained she is, how she keeps wanting to do everything herself on her own terms, and not seeing how that can blow up in her face. In some cases, I could see Black Bat in the middle of a fight, Harper just happening by and deciding to intervene, and Cass needing to deal with this X factor and maybe it not ending well, a criminal getting away or someone getting hurt when they didn't need to. This would absolutely make Cass, let's say, irritable with Harper, and potentially side with anyone who thinks that maybe they should shut her down. Jason Todd's kind of tricky. He was more of a villainous character before the reboot, so I could see him thinking, hey, here's a new apprentice for me. I could steer her into doing crime fighting my way. However, if we wanted to do the more reformed Jason Todd, I could see him maybe not interfering one way or another, not really caring, but actually enjoying her attitude, mostly because of their shared hot-headedness and maybe a penchant for firearms. I don't know enough about Duke or Batwoman to say how they would feel about her. At most, I could see Kate maybe thinking that she needs training, but that's kind of obvious. And now we come to the Dark Knight himself. How do I think that pre-Flashpoint Batman would feel about her? I could see him also having mixed feelings. On the one hand, thinking that without proper training she's going to get herself killed, but on the other hand, if she doesn't want to actually work with the team or listen to reason, would training her actually help? Would she just use that training improperly? He'd reflect on not only Jason and Damien, but also Stephanie, thinking that maybe if he wasn't so hard on Stephanie, bringing her in earlier into the Bat family, maybe not having that 3 strikes rule when she was Robin, maybe things could have been different. So I could see him torn between guiding a potential new hero for Gotham to keep the peace and maybe help in Batman Inc., but at the same time doesn't want to lead someone else in a situation where they need a universe-altering retcon to come back to life. But because she's similar but not identical to his previous allies, maybe he does give serious consideration to giving her some kind of training, maybe by proxy via Red Robin or Black Bat. I could see Stephanie being irate about this, given how many years it took her to be accepted, and maybe even Nightwing thinking that the new kid is getting it easier than the rest of them did. This could be a way for Batman to use a more gentle method than he did with his previous allies, not necessarily going easy on her, but maybe not being quite as much of a taskmaster. Most importantly, if any of the sidekicks are going to be actual friends with her, not simply casual work acquaintances or people who just generally get along, if they're going to actually be friends, not only does it have to be built up to, but Harper would have to get over herself, something I don't think has actually happened. Do I think Harper Row could have been better? Yes, just with a completely different writer in a completely different universe that DC may or may not still want to acknowledge. Happy Batman Day, everyone. This is the Angry Spork signing off, because if I think too much about how two origins are both canon for more than a few minutes, my head might actually explode. God bless and take care.